I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
The striking thing for me at this moment is having grown up in the time of the civil rights movement.
If you look at history in terms of a narrative, for civil rights especially, you can't tell the story without talking about Martin Luther King.
Just reading his speeches, I've always found it to be empowering and inspiring. One of the things Martin Luther King taught about was peaceful, nonviolent resistance.
Is a role model for a non-American even.
Freedom for all, that anyone can do anything.
My daughter asked my father, what happened in the 60s? How could you let this happen? How could this exist? And it was just not understandable that humans could be mistreated before civil rights.
When I went south to visit my relatives, there were signs up, and colored, white.
I was a civil rights worker. I worked for Dr. King in Orangeburg, South Carolina.
I had led 120 students from the North to come down to respond to a request from then the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
When I worked in Mississippi, I got to meet Dr. King when he came to visit the work we were doing in Mississippi.
That asked students to come to Montgomery to protest at the Capitol of Alabama to allow the march to proceed from Selma. It had been stopped at the bridge, denied a permit. That was the basis that you had the attack.
One of probably my most precious possession is a picture of myself, a dear friend, now Rabbi Moshe Shur, and Dr. King, that was taken of the three of us behind the Ebenezer Baptist Church.
And it was at that day that what John Lewis has written about as the most violent attack on a civil rights demonstration took place. Posses with bats and whips came right into us, and we scattered. And it was a vicious attack, and one I'll never forget, obviously.
Dr. King inscribed this picture, "Best wishes and thanks for your help, Martin Luther King." And for many years, of course, I thought that, and it was probably appropriate, that he wrote this inscription as he did to Mickey and to me as a personal piece.
To be embraced by a community and to see the power of religion to move people and the power of love that people who had so little economic wealth, so little political power, they exhibited in their community was a tremendous gift to me to learn.
Dr. King came, and he was in his late 20s. And what flowed from that pulpit and the response that came in the Southern Church, both that night and so many nights, was words of prophecy and optimism and hope that I'll never forget.
And about 2 years ago, I was preparing to talk on King Day to the children of the Heschel School. And I realized when looking at this photograph that when he wrote "Best wishes and thanks for your help," this was also Dr. King working in the realm of prophecy. He knew that this picture would be seen by generations and generations.
Usually on this day, I get to tell my grandchildren that I was at the march in Washington in 1963 and I heard Dr. King speak.
I remember saying to my mother, or asking my mother, "So does this mean there's no more prejudice?" out of the mouths of babes.
I don't think there was a single person in the entire crowd that would have imagined that within 50 years there would be a black family living in the White House.
He really set the vision, he really set the expectation, he really gave people a hope. And, well, I guess he did give sort of an end goal for what civil rights in America really could look like.
It was remarkable, just on one level, it was seeing all the people waiting online and never having experienced that in all the years that I've been voting, and the excitement and the commitment.
The person ahead of me came out. He was pushing a double stroller with twin one-year-old boys, and it took my breath away that for the rest of their lives, they'll only know an election where an African American can be voted in as President of the United States of America. And I just left with a smile on my face that the world had changed at that moment.
They projected Barack Obama to be the winner. I mean, it was surreal. I mean, it really was.
Obama is the first African American president.
Through a child's eyes, it was just names and kind of some broad ideas of what they stood for and who mommy was voting for, but not, her lens was clear of race.
Seeing kids on the news saying, you know, well, I could be president.
I think that Dr. King could not have imagined this moment in 40 years. 40 years is a biblical generation. We worked for 40 years to free ourselves of the burden of slavery. But to rise at the end of 40 years to this point, I think it's extraordinary.
So what does it mean to look at people and say, everybody's created in the image of God? And I'm going to open my hand, and open our hearts to those folks. I think that's what Dr. King was talking about. So if we achieve that, no, but I wouldn't want to minimize what has been achieved. There are no more backs of the buses.
It's a beginning. I think now young children of color will be able to see.
As a father, I'm very happy that he won't have to, you know, to go through what I went through.
We still have a lot of work to do, but this is another really big step.
Martin Luther King's legacy that, you know, we're in this country, we have this democracy, we can participate in it, and we can be our own change agents. We can be the people who create change in this country.
You can't just put your dream in a person, you have to make the dream come true.
I think we've accomplished, I think we have achieved a peace. It's definitely a big piece, because being president is a huge responsibility, and there's no way that it can be ignored now.
It'll take a while, but it's a major step in the right direction.
Yes, the beginning of it. Yes, we're definitely heading in the right direction towards that dream. I think we're right smack in the middle of that dream. It hasn't played itself out, but we just went to bed and we're about the first half hour of that particular dream. I think we're there.
I look forward to a day where we really do not identify him by color, do not identify our candidates by color, and make no big deal out of this at all.
So here we are, the night before an African American is about to be inaugurated. And it's a chapter, a series of chapters for those people that devoted their lives to this, and for any of us that had a small role. The right to vote has been long achieved, and there's a long way to go, not only to end racial discrimination in this town, but to get to a point where there's equal social and economic equality in this city and in this country. But this is a huge milestone. From the right to vote to now inaugurating a president, it's just to behold it and hold it to, this has happened in our lifetime, and in 40 years is remarkable.